It's crazy how Toby Fox can make me cry with one sentence that's not even in the actual game. The Distance Between Two is a track that plays in Chapter 4 of Deltarune in the scene where Kris rips the soul out in the holiday house. It's one instrument, it's the Lost Girl melody musical leitmotif, and it's eerie as hell. The thing is, it's hiding something. And I don't mean in the song itself and we're gonna analyze some spectrograms or something. No, I believe it's hiding something in that title. The Distance Between Two. In this short video, not every Deltarune video needs to be 10 hours long, I assume you played the game. I'll be talking about what I believe the song is saying about every character in the game. I believe Toby Fox really one-upped himself here because in Undertale, he made a whole soundtrack that connects to every character in the game. In Deltarune, instead of one soundtrack, he made one song that connects to everybody in the game. Now there are plenty of obvious connections to make with this title. I think what most players interpreted according to the song's YouTube upload comment section is that it's about Noelle and Dess. Noelle and Dess are extremely important in the game's plot, but I think it's extra emphasized in this moment and this entire scene specifically. She literally haunts the narrative, and through this haunting song, she Basically, the distance between Noelle and Dess through time and through wherever Dess is, lost in the code or in a knight's body or in a bunker or even all gastered and spread between the three, wherever she is, Noelle is far away from that. I think their sisterly connection is just so heartbreakingly eerie. Like all of the spams and sweepstakes posts about Noelle trying to find something like a glitch in a video game is clearly an extension of her trying to find her lost sister, someone who had a major impact on her beyond just the disappearance. Another interpretation I've seen that's less common is that the other characters in the house during that scene are related to the song. Susie and Noelle, for example, despite the game obviously setting them both up, they're both under extreme peril. The song only plays in the non-weird route, the normal route, so Susie and Noelle aren't as separated compared to the weird route, but they still kinda are separated in the normal route. They're dancing around the feelings they have towards each other, with Noelle definitely liking Susie and Susie definitely being interested. In past chapters, Susie and Noelle's romance read more as a one-sided crush, with Susie being hinted to have emerging feelings for Noelle. I feel like these chapters emphasize their relationship, with Susie's remarks reading more as longing than friendship. However, they've simultaneously grown closer and further apart as their lives intensify alongside their growing relationship. They're forming their own distance because of fear that they might experience something real or be disappointed by what's really there. They're both afraid of possible rejection and possible acceptance. Also, Noelle is still dealing with a lot, like a lost sister, a dying father, and an incompetently strict mother, while Susie's dealing with saving the world and still being an outcast in hometown and general society. Their distance is created through the numerous problems they have to solve before establishing their healthy Yuri relationship. But their Yuri relationship will probably be formed before solving all those issues, causing tension and conflict that I think will be interesting and create an intense dynamic, and those are usually better in a writing sense and more realistic anyway. Asgore and Toriel also come to mind when thinking about the song name. They're divorced for reasons we don't know yet. Asgore was once the police chief and was fired, and it may have involved the Dess case, but we don't know that yet. But it's probably like 99% the reason, okay? In this same scene where the song plays, there's a route where you can see him still analyzing what is presumably the Dess case, and in a major lore reveal, he talks about a black shard, maybe a shadow crystal, or as Andrew Cunningham believes, the black sword in the Holidays' bedroom just out of view. Whatever happened, Asgore's insistence that he just wanted to protect everyone and futile attempts to reconnect with Toriel are emphasized here, with the incredible distance among these two. Like, wrap it up, man. What's crazy about this song name is that Toby Fox made it to be intentionally vague so that it can apply to so many other relationships in the game. Carol's absence from this scene and her later appearance just to destroy the Yuri and scold her daughter coldly could also be emphasized with that title, The Distance Between Two. There is literal distance between the mother-daughter duo since they're emotionally distraught by Dess's disappearance and their inability to get along. Carol is overprotective, strict, and over-controlling, not letting her daughter do things for herself. There's so much distance between the two. Additionally, Carol and Rudy can be emphasized with this song, in that Noelle and Carol do not get along, and Rudy has to be the one to hold the family together. His absence due to his sickness emphasizes distance on the entire Holiday family, not to mention the literal missing member that haunts every game character in the entire plot. I might be wrong here, but there is a lot of distance for the Holiday family, and it's not any better for the Dreamer family either. Asgore and Toriel have separated, presumably because of the Dess case, and while divorced, they're hinted to be traumatized child according to Chapter 4's Egg Art Therapy Room, which also might involve Dess's disappearance. Their parenting for that child is really bad. Asgore can't properly see that Kris has changed unless on the weird route and is overly positive all the time despite his pathetic behavior around Toriel and the clear separation between the family he refuses to accept. And Toriel lets Kris be free but doesn't confront their problems, and as shown in Chapter 4 and some evidence from the Undertale newsletter text, Toriel gets drunk frequently and straight up worsens their relationship with Kris when she does this, especially this scene at the end of Chapter 4 where both Kris and Susie lose respect for her. See Kookie914's Universal Mother Theory to see how Toriel's relationship with Kris is implied to be pretty bad. This is like one of my favorite analysis theory videos in Deltarune ever, so please watch this. And speaking of the Dreamer family, where's our golden boy, Asriel? He's someone Kris adores but is somewhat spiteful and overshadowed by, as evidenced by the contrast of Kris's room in the light world versus Kris's room in the dark world. Susie even notices this, and then there's this really cute scene where Susie gives Kris their own trophy, and I love it, it's really cute. Anyway, I don't know when all of this soul shenanigans started, but Kris clearly needs Asriel, and when they need him the most, he's in college. Asriel and Kris's bond parallels Dess and Noelle's, according to when Noelle nostalgically describes their adventures. Side note, I'm kind of excited to see Asriel, because clearly he's gonna appear and like there's gonna be a big scene, right? But I'm really hoping there's like a scene about him just talking about how much Dess disappearing like affected him, you know? This is Omori spoilers, skip to this time mark to avoid Omori spoilers, but I kind of want like a scene where like something like Hero describing how much Marie dying affected him. Something like that for Asriel and Dess, you know? I'm specifically thinking of the scene where Kel is describing to Sunny how Marie dying affected both him and Hero. That's like one of if not my favorite scene from Omori. But the problem with that, you know, is Kel is Hero's sibling, Kris is Asriel's sibling, and Kel was the one describing it, and Kris can't really do that because, well, Kris doesn't speak and we're controlling them. But it would still be interesting to have Asriel's perspective on Dess disappearing, and Toby Fox did say that a friend of his had a game that was very similar ending-wise to his game, and a lot of people assume that game is Omori. If he said that, I'm gonna assume that also some characteristics from Omori apply to Deltarune, like Dess and Asriel and Hero and Marie. I just want a Desriel scene in Deltarune, okay? Please, Toby Fox. Toby Fox writing a straight ship in his game? Impossible. Anyhow, yeah, Asriel and Kris were close, and Asriel is almost definitely gonna be important to the story in some way. I know we like to joke about it, it would be so funny if nothing came of this, but I'm pretty sure we all agree it would also be so funny if Toby Fox wrote some cool ass shit. Anyway, let's get away from all those unks and let's talk about some high schoolers. I'm sure the song doesn't apply to them at all. Oh wait, we already discussed how it applies to two of them and their relationship. Still, there's more to discuss, specifically Kris and Noelle's separation. Noelle and Kris, during the scene where Kris fights the soul in the closet while Susie and Noelle yap, are implied to have a deteriorated relationship. They were childhood friends that fell out, and Susie even gets sort of jealous that Noelle had a framed photo of Kris in her bedroom, implying a romantic connection and lingering feelings that may still be there. Yeah, Noelle shuts these down, but I'm actually setting up a Kriselle video that I want to make. Just kidding, I won't make another ship video for a while unless you guys really want. Anyhow, yeah, there's distance between these two childhood friends that have already had a major impact in the story and will continue to have a major impact in the story. I want to see these two reconnect. Platonically, maybe, I don't know. I ship Ralsei, okay? I have my biases, you have yours. Kriselle is probably like my second favorite ship, and Desriel is like my third. Like that's my top three right there, okay? And while we're bringing shipping into this, Susie and Kris, it's kind of implied Kris has a thing for Suzuki. The only times we've seen them blush is around them, so that's pretty interesting. It's also not really implied, but super clearly shown that Susie is interested in Noelle. The game is setting up for Suzelle to be canon of all the ships. They get closer and yap about obscure YouTube videos. There's nothing more lesbian than that. Actually, I can think of two things more lesbian than that. But still, you gotta think how Kris feels about this. Kris has distance from Susie regarding their unreciprocated emotional feelings, is what I would say if I had this interpretation, but I'm a Ralsei truther. And speaking of Ralsei, yes, this song title definitely refers to them. A thing I didn't include in my video about Ralsei is that it's incredibly sad that this yaoi is so doomed that they literally can't exist in the same world at all times. Did I mention I like doomed yaoi? and Yuri. Ralsei cannot be in the light world because he's a darkener. If they try to do so, like through the roaring or something, they end the world. This is some Evangelion shit again. The distance between these two is so massive they literally can't exist together or act like themselves together at all times. It's only small glimpses. But I think this applies to all characters, not just these two. I believe the distance between two can be closed, as these two, whatever that may mean to you, grow closer, regardless of what happens. Wait a minute. I'm forgetting something. Oh shit, it's me. An interpretation about this song and its title that I haven't really seen a lot of is that the distance between two refers to the soul's distance from everyone, but mainly Kris. And by the soul, I mean the player. Yes, I know the soul and the player are the same thing, I'm just using it interchangeably to not be overly repetitive. I've seen that Twitter thread. Yes, I agree with it completely that some people try to avoid responsibility for the events of the Weird Root by saying the soul did this, which is just like the same thing as saying, why would Kara do this, you know what I mean? Yes, I agree, the soul is the player. Analysis stuff that's not for this video regarding the game's structure and philosophy and like meta-narrative, whatever. I'll talk about that later some other day. Anyway, Kris really wants the soul gone in the scene, and I talked about it a bit in my Ralsei video, but Kris's struggle for independence is really emphasized in this scene. Alongside that, the player has an extreme distance from their own actions in the game, and this moment specifically tells us the distance between our own personal selves. Our experiences, our beliefs, our abilities in our world, and the game's characters, the game's rules, the game's possibilities. In this scene especially, you are a spectator to the events going on. This scene and this whole sequence feels so natural because it's just the characters doing things, talking to themselves or talking with someone as if no one is listening. It's interesting that Kris and the soul are people who hear things that they're not really supposed to hear. It's kind of showing how both Kris and the player have a lot of knowledge that people think they don't know. We know all of Undertale's lore and all of the Gastry stuff, right? And Kris knows all about Carol, the Knight, and all of that secret allegiance thingy. They also probably know a lot about the tale of Hell, Friend, and the man behind the tree. Basically, I'm saying Kris and the player have a lot of parallels that I think this scene emphasizes. Anyway, what's crazy is that this scene ends with you somehow still finding a way to interrupt shit. I think the fact that a natural romance gets interrupted by the player, and also the player becoming the angel metaphorically through the angel doll falling on it, indicates that in the future, Suzel is doomed because of the freaking angel, which is already associated with Noelle and the player through Chapter 2's imagery and the player's reflection in the missing angel prophecy in Chapter 4. With the distance between two, the two is the player and the game. Thanks, Toby Fox. I love the song, and I think it speaks so much to how much emotion Toby Fox has put into this game that a short 48-second long song based around one instrument can invoke so much emotion in so much of the game's themes based on just the melody alone. There is an inherent separation between the characters through their crazy ass situations, and it's amazing to see how they traverse and interact in this scene. This song perfectly complements that. The heart is literally distant from the characters in this scene. At Waha commented on this video, there is no interaction, only observations. You get to see, you get shown, not told, how the characters interact with each other or themselves at their most natural. That's why it's so good. Thanks, Temmie Chang.